Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Iceberg journey. Don't have too much time today, so I don't think I'll be able to edit this up and have it on time. It'll probably be a day later for those of you waiting for the public release of this video. So apologies for that. Regardless though, you guys know the deal. Go and support Bumbles. Link very top of the description, like always.
These soccer f***s won't leave me alone. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a...
Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a situation like that too? Oh no, dude. At least Season 2 is looking to be pretty good. I'm very curious what the DLC characters are going to be, if it's going to be the people who we all think they are.
wealth of people who are charismatic, good on camera, able to improv well, toe company lines, and engage with their communities in fun ways. However, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never had a prolonged brand ambassador. Most we get are the Shadow Duelist tournaments, where a celebrity comes in, says Ogdoatic, and then leaves. By the way, guys, great job. Last one went off without a hitch. Just took a fourth of a year to put it together. We were close one time, though, and that was in 2021, when it was announced that FC Barcelona football player Antoine Griezmann would become Yu-Gi-Oh!'s first ever celebrity ambassador. Now, it sounds like a strange connection at first, but you have to remember that Konami does other things besides make Yu-Gi-Oh! Even if they didn't remember that for a really long time. Pro Evolution Soccer is a big franchise they produce, and thanks to their ties to the world of professional football, a deal like this isn't out of the realm of possibility. What's more, Antoine...
It's not really surprising. I don't really play sports games. I used to play Tiger Woods PGA Tour back in the day, but that was about it, and like honestly at this point I don't really want to support anything that EA makes. Not that there aren't any good games under them, but man, EA.
himself had a history with the game. Now, it was a lot of DM nostalgia, like remembering Dark Magician existed and posting a picture of a speed duel box to his Instagram, but whatever profits that product scrounged up, I bet had something to do with this. He has 27 million followers, guys! The time frame is a little shaky since a lot of stuff from this deal has since been deleted, but Antoine was announced to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! Brand ambassador in June of 2021. Antoine would be representing Yu-Gi-Oh!, appearing at events, making announcements, signing products, and to solidify the deal, was going to be able to make a card in his honor. Whether that meant it would be in his name and likeness, or that it was just going to be inspired by him, we don't know. He did interviews with community figures like Lithium 2300 and El Dojo del Duelista. He posed with the Duel Disc. He saw what Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon looked like. Baby, we were cooking! Cooking with dog shit. July 7th, 2021.
As expected.
Antoine Griezmann is unceremoniously removed from his position as ambassador and has his contract with Konami cancelled.
Okay, videos emerged of Name and Antoine during what seems like their stay together at the 2020 Euros earlier this summer. The footage shows them both poking fun at the staff of the hotel where they were staying. Griezmann's words are unintelligible, but we can see him laughing. Due to this event, Konami made a statement. Konami believes, as is the philosophy of sports, that discrimination of any kind is unacceptable. Previously, we had announced him as our Yu-Gi-Oh! Content ambassador. However, in light of recent events, we had decided to cancel the contract. That's rough, dude. But I really don't think that this is gonna pan out any other way, to be honest. Like, I don't think these celebrity ambassadors really ever work. Maybe I just don't get out enough, so there may be scenarios where it does work very, very well. But in this specific instance, I feel like people could see this coming from a mile away. Especially if you're working with a Japanese company. Like, what I've heard about the tokusatsu stuff is, like, even more intense than this, where if you're caught doing, like, anything at all that isn't, heroic-like, and could be frowned upon by Japanese society, then you're basically in the doghouse. You're gonna get abandoned by the company immediately. I don't know the video, obviously. Maybe we're gonna see it here in a second. But making fun of any sort of like service staff is kind of shitty. Like, those poor people have to work and deal with other people for the entire day for probably not a whole lot of money. And yet, for whatever reason, so many people out there seem to get like a big enough head to think that they're just better than those people. simply because they're not working those kind of jobs.
After a video from 2019 resurfaced where him and fellow Barcelona player Ousmane Dembele were making racist comments at an Asian hotel worker.
Shit.
It should have been.
Are you kidding? Fucking A, dude. Oh, it had to be an Asian too. Oh, man. As an Asian myself who used to live over the States, I have my fair share of experiences like this. You just gotta get used to it. But yeah, that's why it's so important to really think about the things that you do and say and leave out there on the internet to potentially be discovered like this. I never really understood all the people who have to share every single thought that they have in their head on Twitter. Because, yeah, people can always go back and see that and be like, we're gonna have to reconsider hiring you for this position. It's not a good idea. The optics are pretty bad. Just keep that kind of stuff to yourself. And also don't be a shitty person. But I know that's pretty hard for some people.
Been on their radar that he would do something like this, because this was after a different racism controversy against a different race, when he did blackface to dress up as a Harlem Globetrotter.
Oh my god.
Well, no, blackface isn't the right word. Most people stop at the face. They don't go for full arms and legs, too! There is so much surface area where he could have realized this was a mistake. How does it just keep going?
Man.
Antoine's removal as a brand ambassador has had a real negative effect on Konami's community outreach. Because despite having perfect candidates, Konami seems gun-shy to pull the trigger on people like Ryan Hunter, a Super Bowl champion with Kansas City in 2019. He played Danger Dark Worlds. Or what about Olympic gold medalist Noah Lyles? He was flashing Yu-Gi-Oh cards during the preliminaries leading into the Paris Games where he won his medal. Just give him a copy of Speed Warrior, have him sign it. That's it. At the time of writing, actually, they're about to give this a second shot as a new card was revealed based on baseball player Shohei Ohtani's dog. Level 1 normal light beast. Alright guys,
That's cute.
Yummy Primate is alive.
Huh. I can understand from the perspective of the company to be a little more cautious with going full send on anybody to be a representative. Now, obviously I don't know about these two other athletes who Bumble showcased, so couldn't really say. But maybe just don't full commit. Just do a little bit here and there and see how it goes.
Firewall Dragon dodges the ban list.
Ooh.
The Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime is a vehicle to tell beautiful stories about friendship, the bonds we make with other people, finding worth in the worthless, and the pains of growing up. It's also a toy commercial. These two things are both correct, and one doesn't negate the other. The tie-in that the card game has with the anime is oftentimes a boon. Decks that see a lot of meta success and that are fan favorites get loads of support and get to act as the perfect on-ramp for anime viewers to become card game players.
So was Firewall Dragon like a big part of the anime, but they couldn't remove it off the bad list despite it being problematic because it was selling decks?
Blackwings are a great example of this. Crow is a popular character in the anime, he uses Blackwing cards, Blackwing cards are putting up results? Let's make more Blackwings!
Yeah, true.
Some people took this a little too far and assumed the story of 5Ds was rewritten around their popularity, but that's for later. What happens when the opposite case is true? When a card is hated in the real game, that affects its usage and popularity in the anime. We talked about a card that would go unmentioned in the Death of Yu-Gi-Oh! Section, and it's time to finally reveal the culprit. Firewall Dragon was the ace monster of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrain's main character, Yusaku. It followed the template of all the ace monsters beforehand by having 2500 attack, being the final boss of the main character's deck, and like everyone past Neos, had an effect. Whereas previous ones had ranged from really good, like Stardust, to
Stardust is still
underwhelming, like Utopia, Firewall Dragons was completely broken. Able to bounce multiple monsters to the hand from the field or grave, including itself, which was a good thing because clearing up the extra monster zone was extremely important in the Link era. And using it multiple times in one turn was possible because it wasn't a once-per-turn effect.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah, I just know that Firewall Dragon was absolutely broken in a particular combo. But I think that just has to do with the way Link summoning works, plus how Firewall Dragon wasn't a once-per-turn. I think they were just setting themselves up for failure without putting that particular clause up.
It could also special summon monsters from hand when cards were sent to the graveyard, and instead of being a soft once per turn like that first effect, this was a nonce per turn. You could use the effect infinitely, and since Firewall itself made it so your hand would always be full thanks to the bouncing, you could infinitely recur powerful monsters over and over again for no cost. This made it ripe for abuse with cards like Cannon Soldier to FTK opponents. Clearly this card sucks. Why is it not at the bottom of a lake? Well, its role as the ace monster for Vrain's main character gave it real-world plot armor. It couldn't...
It'd be like banning Blue Eyes White Dragon, right? I mean, Blue Eyes it needs a lot of support in order to make it work, and it was fairly top tier at some point. But in and of itself, the card wasn't the issue. This one, however, is a different scenario.
Reasonably be gotten rid of if multiple episodes and duels had been scripted around the use of Firewall Dragon. There was no other card that could fit the purposes they had written Firewall to be used for, and so it had to stick around. As the real-world formats got worse and worse, more and more of a stink had been made to get Firewall Dragon banned. Multiple events were ruined by its existence, and the boards it could make. All the while, our Sound and Fury accomplished nothing. That is until December 19th, 2018. The Vrain's episode, What's Beyond Instinct, aired, and the end of the episode was also the end of Firewall Dragon's life. Firewall Dragon would never be summoned in the show again, as 15 days prior, he was banned in the TCG, and 13 days later, he would be banned in the OCG. The damage Firewall had done was finally enough that he was banned from the game, written out of the show, and the duties of Ace Monster were passed on to the secondary ace, Decode Talker. The final clash of the show wasn't the upgraded Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid against the Arrival Cybers at
Access Code Talker.
Instead, it was Access Code Talker. And the show ended with Dark Templar at Ignister facing off with Decode Talker. We'll never know the full story, but there's no way that these two events aren't related. The breaking of Firewall and his removal from the show.
100%. As Bumble said, it's a toy commercial. We're here to sell cards, so if this is a card that people can't even buy, why are we showcasing it in the show? Gotta have to rewrite some things and reanimate a couple of things. And those poor animators, man, probably have to work overtime to redo a lot of things. Oh, it depends. Hopefully they didn't have to redo too much. Like, maybe it was in the process of being animated and then they decided to swap things later on. That's why it took a little bit before they could change the story.
Firewall was written out with more than a fourth of the show left to go, leaving on episode 82 of 120. And Decode Talker's appearances went from modest in the early show to ballooning by the end, now that there was a vacancy. This sort of change to a show's scripting has never, and probably will never happen again. But then again, hopefully it never will need to happen because they wouldn't make a card this broken again.
You can make a mistake, but like, if we make the same mistake over again, it's probably something is not working here. Gotta rethink our card effects a little bit here before we put them into the show. That or, just have the actual card not be the exact same effect. Doesn't have to be.
Noble Knight favoritism. This is personal. So you might remember that I've touched on Noble Knights a few times in this discussion. They were the very first TCG exclusive archetype made for the American release of Galactic Overlord.
I do remember
and
that.
And are based on various Arthurian legends and weapons. They revolve around equip spells and normal monsters. You have the main monster, Artorigus, who was given a poem in place of flavor text, which is very unique. You have Boars and Maedrot, who are pseudo-Gemini monsters who gain their effects when equipped with equip cards, and the equips themselves based on famous swords like Excalibur and Clarent.
I did not know that's what Gemini meant. The only reason why I know I'm Gemini is because I think I saw like a thumbnail for a video talking about failed summoning mechanics or something like that, and it was about the Gemini monsters. Never actually used them myself or seen anybody using them.
The deck focused around either Xyz summoning into stronger forms of Artorigus, or Synchro summoning into stronger forms of their Lancelot stand-in, Lancelin, with them each growing stronger the more equips they had attached. Now we all know that parents love their firstborn more than anything else, and I can understand Konami of America being really excited to showcase that they could make cards too, but holy hell they pushed Noble Knights too hard. Noble Knight favoritism refers to the insane amount of support that Noble Knights have gotten over the years, with every Xyz era pack past Galactic Overlord containing at least one new piece of support for the deck. Heavy pushes to make decks relevant aren't uncommon, especially anime ones like Salamangrates. When they debuted in Soul Fusion, there were like 10 new Salamangrate cards a day. Noble Knights, though, are a totally game original archetype, which makes their push all the more remarkable. Where most TCG exclusive archetypes get around 20 cards to work with, as of today, Noble Knights are just a hair shy of 60 cards.
Oh,
you could run a
goddamn.
deck of only Noble Knight cards and not play a single duplicate.
Holy. Man, I wish some of my other favorite decks out there could get that many cards. I guess, yeah, all you can really describe this as is just favoritism. This is the first thing that we worked on. We really enjoy it, and we want it to work. We want to keep it somehow relevant so people can play it. I don't know if that's necessarily problematic, but I guess there's always the argument of this slot could have been used for this other deck that is obviously struggling, but it's just not shown enough attention, which I hope wasn't the case.
You think that's a lot? Where do you think they came from? In a move that Konami of America has never tried since, they released the Knights of the Round Table box. A structure box that included a full Noble Knight deck, mat, sleeves, and brand new support. You think giving them their own product was a lot? How about their own exclusive rarity? Noble Knights have a rarity that was only ever used in the Knights of the Round Table box called Platinum Rare, where elements of the card get this high sheen finish to look like platinum. Konami wanted Noble Knights to take off so badly.
Holy, okay. Didn't think it was this. Yeah, I thought it was just the new cards. No, we're really pushing this. Did they see like sales numbers go up because of this? And they were like, yeah, we're gonna capitalize on it? Or it really was just, we love our first archetype here. Regardless though, I can see why they didn't do this ever again. It's a lot of work to put into just one particular archetype. And if a particular customer doesn't, like that one, then who are you gonna sell it to?
But the whole thing fell apart when people realized Noble Knights suck. This is the reason that Noble Knight favoritism is so noteworthy. They gave them so much support.
And yet it didn't work.
Up to this very day, we still get Noble Knights, and they're still just bad.
To be fair, it was the first one from America's Konami branch, right? So they were still testing the waters. They were still trying to figure things out. Not everybody can be as base as the South Korean one. Because I believe in a previous episode, we learned that they made I want to say, Paleozoic cards, I think? They were the trap cards that could become monsters that were unaffected by monster effects. Like, that was really cool and still relevant till today. Noble Knights, though, when I was playing, I saw them every so often. But yeah, they weren't like the most popular thing out there. I could see somebody who really likes this aesthetic playing this deck though, regardless.
Now it's not fair to say that every Noble Knight card is bad. It is to say
There's
most
some really good
are,
ones, yeah.
But there is an exception. And it's an exception that the entire player base took exception to. I sold Two Tales of the Noble Knights.
Yeah, Iceberg is basically the reason why I know Noble Knights, because you can see this in other like decks that play warrior monsters. It's never really pure Noble Knights that I see.
This Link 2 Light Warrior monster was the bane of many duelists' existence for many years. Every time this card came down, you knew some heinous bullshit was about to happen. So many of the 2018 Dark Warrior decks that spat out Rongo Nimiad were built on the back of Iceberg.
Rango
And it wasn't
Nimian,
until
okay,
years
yeah.
later that she
Yeah.
was finally banned,
I remember that
causing
card.
problems the entire way to the
Ugh.
grave. They love Noble Knights so much, they gave them a spin-off! After they exhausted Arthurian legend, they moved over to France for the French equivalent of King Arthur, Charlemagne, and the Epic of Roland. You want to know the best part? In one support wave, the Infer Noble Knights beat the dog shit out of the Noble Knights.
Infer
They are
Nobles,
so
pretty
much
good.
better, it's comical that these two decks are related. And the Noble Knights are so bad, only one of their cards sees any play in Infer Noble Knights after Isold got banned. And it's just the search spell. Can't wait to see you all tomorrow when Noble Knights get their own attribute and format dedicated to them.
Imagine, bro. That'd be crazy.
Mad Lobster.
Nani?
So maybe it's a good thing Konami doesn't credit all of its artists. Controversies around Yu-Gi-Oh! Card art are surprisingly minimal. Konami has done a good job nipping any problems in the bud before they can actually flower into a problem, like lengthening skirts and removing scissors.
A lot of censorship. Yeah.
Son, you can invoke the powers of hell and evil and Satan. Are those not safety scissors? On very, very rare occasions, though.
I mean, those ones I feel like are just outrage for the sake of outrage as opposed to actually being something problematic. But, you know, there were different times back then. I just can't understand the reasoning behind people getting outraged about something that doesn't have to do with them and isn't really a part of something that they're even playing actively or really aware of. They just maybe hear it from somebody else and then they're like, yeah, we gotta cancel this. I don't get it. There's too many other things in my life that I have to care about that I just don't have the energy for it.
There will be some sort of problem that Konami runs into with the artwork that requires alteration. Some of these you could call censoring, but they're not all for the usual reasons like blood and boobs. The Fairy Tale series are a group of little critters dressed up as famous fairy tale princesses
I always
like
use Fairy Tale
Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and our subject, Snow White. Fairy Tale Snow is evil and going to hell when she dies, but that's besides the point. In the Japanese version of the card, the colors of the monster's dress are pretty much a one-for-one copy of the version of Snow White from Disney's movie. While they were able to get away with that in Japan, to hedge their
Not in
bets,
America.
Snow was given a brand new color palette in America in order to avoid the chance of Disney coming after them.
Okay, that's fair.
The artwork of Earthbound prisoner Groundskeeper was edited to remove the chain from around his neck. Why this one was done is a little bit more vague, but an idea is that they didn't want to evoke the
Slavery?
imagery of slavery by having
Yep.
a monster in chains. The biggest one, though,
But wait, but what about the Unchained monsters, which is their whole aesthetic?
comes from an extremely unassuming card, Mad Lobster. Released
What the hell is that? I have never seen that thing before. That thing looks ugly. It looks almost like I don't recall its exact name, but it's like a demon from Shin Megami Tensei that also has like the crab claws. Also looks pretty darn ugly, but not this ugly, thankfully.
in Cybernetic Revolution, it's a common normal monster with okay stats. Maybe when they released later normal monster support, like Just a Break, it would see some play, but why does this card matter? Well, the reason is much more insidious than the last two, because the artwork was stolen. The artwork for Mad Lobster is a modified version of Sea Claw from the game Altile, a TCG released in 2004.
Never
You've
heard of it.
probably never heard of it, but it was a fairly interesting game, releasing as mainly a Flash-based browser game in Japan before having a brief release in America in 2008. If you want to try it out now, there's a simulator on Steam you can download. The artwork is changed slightly, likely tracing, but comparing the placement of the claws across both versions is really all you need to see to tell you that it's a copy. Instead of altering the artwork further, Konami scrapped the entire thing and redrew Mad Lobster from the ground up. New background, changed the pose, added detail, went all out and reissued Cybernetic Revolution to make sure the proper release got into people's hands. Ever since, Konami has made sure to never let a mistake like this slip through again.
Always double
and
check.
the artist was peacefully decapitated to send a message to the rest about what happens when you make Daddy worry. Now they avoid this by making cards like Psychic and Punisher, where you can't even tell what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, there is a lot going on there for that card, but it looks pretty cool, whatever it is. The only time I used that card, I think, was in a punk deck, like a punk synchro pile. I actually had a lot of fun playing that deck.
Eldritch and Laundry Dragon Maid.
Okay, hold up a second. What does Laundry Dragon Maid do again? Because I'm fairly certain they did play her in Eldritch decks. It probably has something to do with recycling traps and stuff like that.
Fans love taking two completely unrelated monsters who share nothing from an artistic perspective and saying they'd go bowling. Whether it be for gameplay reasons or simply because it'd be funny, cards have been mashed together into impromptu friendships in the fandom for years.
Oh, okay, it's just a fandom thing? I thought that there was some actual use, because I do recall seeing people playing that together, or like having the little Laundry Dragon Maid mate there on the side whenever they were playing Eldritch, but didn't know it was like some sort of meme.
A big one that took off as a meme in Japan was Melfi Rabbi and Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. Zeus's ability is to overlay on top of any Xyz monster that battled that turn. And since it was released only a set after the Melfi archetype, people found it funny that you could convert Joyous Melfi into Zeus.
Yeah.
The joke eventually became that Melfi Rabbi had the ability to transform into Zeus if you made him upset.
Holy shit. That is actually hilarious, and some pretty good art too.
One that goes even deeper, though, is the relationship between Eldritch the Golden Lord and Laundry Dragon Maid. The pairing of these two monsters as best friends is extremely popular in the community, all stemming from their unintended synergy in Japan. See, Laundry Dragon Maid, despite having charisma to spare, is easily the worst Dragon Maid.
Yeah, in like a pure Dragon Maid deck, you either don't really run her or like run like a single copy of her. That's what I remember, at least, back when I played the deck for the first time.
Its ability to mill 3 off of the top of the deck when summoned is actively detrimental to the deck if it misses. So both it and its dragon form are removed from most Dragon Maid builds. Because of that, Laundry Dragon Maid gained a sort of loser charm in Japan. It was the smallest, cutest, and weakest Dragon Maid, so people were looking for any excuse to play her, which ironically led to her becoming the most popular Dragon Maid. This popularity even landed her a role as a mate in Master Duel. One of the very first deluxe mates too, which meant she would shift between her dragon form and maid form. People looking to seriously use the card even found that she was a decent choice in decks that didn't use their normal summon and liked having cards in the grave. This thing is a great addition to paleo decks. Like I wouldn't bring it up, but also Eldritch decks.
Yeah, that's right, because Eldritch has like effects with traps in the graveyard, and obviously milling stuff into the graveyard is preferable for them. Makes a whole lot of sense.
Being as Eldritch usually only plays one monster, Eldritch himself, and all the spell traps you play have graveyard effects, Japanese players thought that Laundry would be a fine addition, as you weren't using your normal summon for anything else, and it could get some powerful spell and traps into the graveyard where they were needed most. This wasn't the best build of Eldritch, but it was one of the most popular.
Yeah, duh. Not everybody is out here wanting to play the meta and win. We want to play these two unlikely cards together, and like Laundry Dragon Maid ain't being played in any other deck, so might as well use her here. It's got that like a girl failure appeal to it.
Because it had Laundry Dragon Maid in it. This started a snowball effect where people just really enjoyed the idea that this evil alchemical zombie, ruler of his own nation of gold,
it's the
who mutated and warped invaders into his unwitting slaves, also had a friend. Artwork will show the two hanging out, going on trips. Really, whatever scenario the artist picks, somehow the two just fit into. The biggest force for this pairing is Japanese artist Kiyoshi Hitano, who has drawn dozens and dozens of pictures of Laundry Dragon Maid over the years. And there's a 50-50 chance that Eldritch is in them. And they are adorable. You got Laundry introducing her new friend to the other maids, Laundry accidentally ripping Eldritch's cape, Laundry dressing up as Eldritch for Gold Week, even the massive mural of every version of Laundry Dragon Maid has an Eldritch snuck in there. My favorite, though, is the one where Laundry Dragon Maid is trying to sell her art on the streets and is getting upstaged by Card Trooper's AI art of boobies.
No! And then you see Eldritch over there in a robe in the background. I see you. Human dragon painting. $1 to buy. Paintings with love. Aww.
Who's the only person going to go buy Laundry Dragon Maid's artwork? Eldritch. Yu-Gi-Oh fans are usually horrible, but when it comes to making cute little relationships,
side of the community.
They're alright. Indomitable Fighter Lele. Okay, so this is another warning like with Tyler the Great Warrior. No jokes this segment, it's a heavy one, involving the loss of a child. So prepare yourself. Leighton Kurashima was an employee at Upper Deck Entertainment during the time them and Konami were working together on the distribution of Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the West. He was a product manager who worked closely with the TCG department and had formed a friendship with many members of the staff who worked there, who even gave him the nickname Lele. Leighton would take some time off in the near future though, as he was set to become a father to his son Aelin in October of 2005.
Oh boy.
Aelin would be born, but unfortunately would pass away only 2 hours after being born, leaving Leighton and his wife Molly devastated. As a way to cope with his loss, Leighton would end up trying to bury himself in his work at Upper Deck. Except when he returned after losing his child, he discovered the TCG department had pulled some strings to create a card in his honor. This was Indomitable Fighter Lele, a copy-paste of Goblin Attack Force in almost every way, except for the way you can circumvent its defense position effect. Like Giant Orc, Lele switches to defense position when it attacks, but like Giant Orc as well, it has a Union monster that has the effect to change its battle position and circumvent the weakness. For Giant Orc, it's Second Goblin, and for Lele, it's Protective Soul Aelin, a card made in the memory of Leighton's lost son, who had the effect to protect Lele and make him stronger.
Shit, that's so fucking cute, but also so fucking tragic. Oh my goodness, man. I can't imagine how you'd feel, though, as the father coming back to work, and this is what, I guess your coworkers do for you.
Based on the release schedule of Cybernetic Revolution and the birth of Aelin, I believe these cards were made preemptively, as in they wanted to pay tribute to Leighton and Aelin before Aelin's unfortunate passing. Cybernetic Revolution was released in May of 2005 in the OCG, and August of the same year in the TCG, while Aelin wouldn't be born until October. It didn't diminish the effect of the message behind the cards, though. In fact, it took on a whole new meaning. No matter what, Aelin would always be by Leighton's side for the love they got to share all too briefly. Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't often move you to tears, but the story of Indomitable Fighter Lele and Protective Spirit Aelin is one that shakes even the most stone-hearted.
Man, Bumbles, you really gotta hit me with a Laundry Dragon Maid and Eldritch lore. And then this. I guess I should have seen it coming, man. It's always like the happy moment before the dark night of the soul.
The COVID ban list. 2020 sucked. All you had to do was live through it, and you would know what I mean. It was hard being totally sedentary, both physically and mentally.
It affected so much, and honestly, kind of the reason why I'm here in the first place. I could tell you I did not plan to become a VTuber, but hey, it sort of worked out in the end anyways.
Being cooped up broke a lot of people's brains, and they never really fixed themselves. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a small comfort, but this was when they were scrambling to find out how exactly Yu-Gi-Oh! Would work on a large digital scale. Even then, if you were looking for official Konami-sanctioned ways to play, it was kinda grim. Seeing the mental well-being of the world was at an all-time low, Konami decided to do a small gesture of good faith and put out an emergency ban list. One of those good faith emergencies. On February 20th, 2021, Konami updated the OCG ban list with a new card, Pestilence. This was a super old equip card, back from when they were still nerfing cards by making them type reliant, which Konami banned as a way to show goodwill and hoping for the end of the pandemic to come sooner rather than later.
Okay. Goodwill. Does this really do anything for anyone, though?
It was purely a silly ban, as the card itself is bad
nobody plays
and not
this.
used in anything, and more just a way to show solidarity, with the ban itself being lifted on April Fool's Day. And to show how nice it was, I would like to quickly go over all the cards that dodged this ban list that I think deserved it. Crush Card Virus, Deck Devastation Virus, Eradicator Epidemic Virus, Grinning Grave Virus, Cell Explosion Virus, Doom Virus Dragon, Tribe Infecting Virus, Virus Cannon, Amorphage Infection, Infestation Infection, Infestation Pandemic, Pandemic Dragon. Okay, how did he escape the list?
That's hilarious,
Toons
bro.
are a parody of Magic. Magic's influence on the TCG landscape is as wide as it is blatant. You can find the DNA of Magic in almost every TCG released, whether it be their use of a resource system like lands in the case of Pokemon's energies, or the mana in Hearthstone, or mechanics like summoning sickness. Yu-Gi-Oh! Might seem like it doesn't fit the mold, as its speed is 100 times that of Magic.
Well, no. We all know that it came from Magic. Like, Magic is probably the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure of card games. Or maybe a more accurate comparison would be like the Fist of the North Star equivalent to card games.
The average turn count of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game equaling how long it takes a Magic game to get going, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is cut from the exact same cloth. Don't believe me? Guess what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was originally called back in the manga? No, not Duel Monsters. It was called Magic and Wizards. The inspiration is so obvious, but it doesn't just end at stuff as blatant as the
Obviously
name of
the
the
Naruto
original
TCG.
game. Phases like the standby phase are adapted from Magic the Gathering's upkeep phase. The stack is the basis for Yu-Gi-Oh!'s chain system. The influence goes as deep as the bones of the game. Then
Man, I should really learn how to play Magic someday.
there's the, less not blatant ones. Those being these two beauty queens. Morinfen and Summoned Skull are two of the most
Really?
iconic fiend monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh!'s history. Yes, Morinfen. You probably don't know this
Who?
card, but this beautifully unique card crash is a fan favorite card in Japan. Its stats are pathetic for a level 5, but not so pathetic that he's searchable off of the battle tutors like Mystic Tomato. Because of that, and how drop-dead ugly he is, he became a meme in Japan that got so popular it was referenced not only in Duel Links, but got him his own custom sleeves that you can buy for your deck. There's also porn of him. Anyway, Morinfen is based on the Magic card, Morinfen, a monster who doesn't exactly resemble our Morinfen, but then again, nothing resembles Morinfen. Summoned Skull, you might be surprised to learn, isn't wholly original, and if you were going off the more recent arts, you might not catch it. But take a look at his rendering from the original manga in the Magic and Wizards era, and then look at the Magic card, Lord of the Pit. It even has Summoned Skull's Japanese name on the original card. Summoned
I see,
Demon.
okay.
Heck, sometimes the influence shines through too brightly, and you get something like the original printing of the card Wall of Illusions, which instead of putting monsters, wrote creatures, like how they're referred to in Magic. Despite how much Magic has given Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu-Gi-Oh! Still decided to thumb Richard Garfield in the eye with an archetype made to make fun of Magic the Gathering. And that archetype you probably already know. Toons are the bait-and-switch archetype of the first antagonist of the Duel Monsters series, Maximilian Pegasus. You expect the big bad to have a terrifyingly strong deck, but instead it's full of cute cartoons that squash and stretch their way out of all damage. Doesn't seem to have much to do with magic, but it takes looking at the mechanics of the Toon archetype to understand what it's doing. Toon monsters can't attack the turn they're summoned, and they can attack directly.
Okay. I was trying to think like what we were going for here. Would it be like, particular references to certain monsters? But I mean, like, it's just Toon versions of the monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Already. But yeah, no, that makes sense. That checks out. I mean, being able to attack the same turn that you're summoned is pretty unique, I would think. Like, I feel like most card games, you'd have to have a special effect on the monster that allows it to attack on the same turn. But obviously, just clarification, I could be wrong. That's just my impression of the card games that I know of and what I've heard people say.
As long as the card Toon World is up. How this applies to Magic the Gathering is in that summoning sickness mechanic I mentioned.
Yep.
Magic creatures can't attack the turn they're summoned, just like Toon monsters. As for the other effect, magic creatures don't have to destroy all the opponent's creatures to attack directly like they do in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is reflected in the Toon's direct attack effect. All of this is wrapped up in how Toon monsters get this effect by having Toon World up, their version of one of Magic's land cards. If you thought Flower Guardians were the only Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck that emulated other card games, think again. Spell Chronicle. Lying is so f***ing cool. The influence that pro players have over the general playing populace isn't understood by a lot of people. If a pro Yu-Gi-Oh! Player scratches his leg during grand finals, people will be trying to figure out what his underwear is to see if it can give them an advantage.
Why?
Pro players have a history of using this to their advantage. They know that their accolades make them desirable to emulate for net deckers and less experienced duelists. So they use this prestige to essentially get the community chasing their own tails. A perfect example of this was in hat format, when, independent of any tournament results, a group of pro players came to the conclusion that the best deck was in fact not the hand artifact trap trick deck that the format was named for, but Sylvans, a series of plant monsters.
Okay.
These pro players leveraged this knowledge by using suboptimal decks, hyping up the choices they made as the best ones to make, and then turning around and using Sylvans instead to massive success. A 2,500-person event was topped by Sylvans, and it was largely due to pro players keeping Sylvans tight to their chest, and nobody knowing the counterplay because it wasn't a common choice.
Okay. This kind of reminds me of like the FGC pro players who, whenever they stream, maybe they don't play their actual main that they're going to be using in the game that they're going to be competing in. When they're streaming, they'll just play like their off picks or whatever, while cooking up something in the background that they unleash on tournament day. That's fair. That's fair. Especially if money is on the line and this is kind of your job. Then yeah, I could see this.
A slightly similar thing happened in branded format when pro player Pac used a small Preda package in his deck thanks to its fusion synergy, and especially hyped up the card Preda Practice as the linchpin. The card shoots up to $40, and that version of the deck dies off. The theme seems to be that if they're telling you plants are good, they're either Jessica Robinson or lying. The most infamous buyout in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, though, was done a bit more maliciously by these trustworthy pro players.
Don't get the Jessica Robinson joke, but sure. Maybe they're just known for only playing plants? That or controversy.
This is Spell Chronicle, a card used in the GX anime by Yubel that banished 5 speller traps from your deck and could slowly add them back to your hand over the course of a few turns. This card stinks like doo-doo.
Yeah.
It's slow, reliant on the opponent, and has a downside.
I have actually seen this being used, though. Like, unironically, I think somebody was just playing an anime deck. They did not win, but I commended them for trying.
You know you can just play cards that don't hurt you if they're destroyed, right? The real story of Spell Chronicle comes from pro player Alexander Lizgath. He has a username, but I'm not saying the words based lolly over and over again. Alexander was a super popular pro player. He had multiple tops, a lot of respect in the community, and most importantly, was a fan of less popular deck choices.
Okay.
He was one of the few people, for instance, using a small Blue Eyes package during Dragon Ruler format, piloting that to a top 16 finish at an ARG event.
That's not bad.
When Shadal and Burning Abyss were due for release, he hyped up Spell Chronicle as a great card in those decks, as they're graveyard-based.
Why?
And all those cards in your hand are sent to the graveyard for Spell Chronicle's effect. Other pro players like Jeff Jones joined in, hyping up the card as a fever pitch was reached, and the card went from a worthless common to over $10 a copy.
Holy shit, bro. Is this just insider trading?
The thing is, though, that Spell Chronicle wasn't as good as it read on the tin, thanks to the discard being a cost and therefore not proccing the effects of the monsters you discarded. By the time people realized what was going on, though, it was too late, and hundreds of people now owned worthless cards they paid out the nose for.
No.
That's right, pro players pumped and dumped the player base. I don't know if players like Alex and Jeff had a financial stake in Spell Chronicle sales, but regardless, it's one of the biggest cases of pro players influencing the player base for the worse.
Yeah. Okay. My example of the FGC pro players playing their off picks or like their secondaries on stream is a little bit different from this. This one people actually lose money to. Not just lose a game because they didn't expect them to pull out this particular character, you know? But I suppose this loops back to the general advice that you give to somebody playing a card game is that wait a little bit for the meta to settle. Just wait and see before you start spending your resources, your vials, your money, because you don't know where things are going to go and what people are going to figure out. But alrighty, dudes, I'm going to have to call things here for now. But regardless, thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed your time here. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you guys next time.